Everybody, it's Caitlin, your geeky girlfriend, and yesterday, we filmed part one of the 2024 year-end movie review wrap-up, but unfortunately my recording got cut off halfway through, so this is going to be part two of the 2024 movie year-end wrap-up. So everything in this video, in this video, we're going to go through the rest of the movies that I watched for the first time in 2024. I'm going to review them, give you, like, a letter grade rating for them, little tiny plot synopsis, maybe a couple details, and then I'll tell you if I would watch it again or not, and if you should watch it. And if you are new here, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to my page. Make sure you hit that red button and subscribe, and also give me a thumbs up if you like this video. And let me know in the comments your thoughts about any of these movies, and if you watched part one, you know that I really think we need to start doing these, like, maybe every 6 months, because there are a lot of movies on here. I'm really hoping that we can get through all of them in this video, but there may end up being a part 3, so just read that description or the title of the video. So in yesterday's video, we left off talking about the My Big Fat Greek Wedding movie series. So I talked about the second one yesterday. They have a daughter, and then in the third one they end up actually going to Greece, and they end up learning more about Nia's family. Excuse me. But the daughter, like I was saying yesterday, like, she isn't really in it. She comes, like, they say she's studying abroad, and I don't even think she makes an appearance. They kind of put some, like, gave that role to another, like, surrogate character, for lack of a better phrase, but essentially it's just John Corbett and Nia Vardalos at this point, because her mom has passed away, and so this one needs to be the last one of these movies, because there really is just nowhere further they can go. But in this one, they actually end up going to Greece, and celebrating a Greek wedding in Greece, and, yeah, that's pretty much, and then it's the whole, like, you know, they've been married for a long time, they're kind of going through this rough patch, so the two, you know, Nia and Luke, discovering, like, how to be intimate and communicate and all those things that usually, you know, couples encounter after being together for a significant amount of time, which at the point of this movie, they've been together for like 25 years, so they're approaching a big anniversary. They are kind of starting to drift apart, and it's them, like, reconnecting, which is kind of nice. Okay, so we're done talking about those. Like I said, I really hope the third one is the last one of those. Overall, I would say for the second one, I would probably give the second one a B. I think I would watch the second one again. The third one, it was like a C minus. It was fine, but I don't think I'll watch it again. Like, it just really, in terms of a sequel, just didn't really do anything for me. Okay, moving on to the next row. We're going to move past those, and if you want It Ends With Us, you're going to have to go watch part one, because I talked about that one in yesterday's video. So now we're on to The Whale, starring Brendan Fraser. Brendan Fraser actually won an Oscar for this film, and I was not sure how I was going to feel about it, but because he won an Oscar, I wanted to watch it, and this movie was hard to watch on a lot of different levels. It was very sad. It was very humbling. It was very, I say disturbing, but, like, not maybe in the way that you would think. It's just kind of like some of the scenes were very, very hard to watch, and thinking about what he might have had to endure to film this movie, and just kind of some of the things that he encounters and the things that he deals with, it was very, I would say it's a very powerful movie. Could I watch it again? I don't know. I don't know if it is a movie that I can watch again. Now, with that being said, I would give this movie easily a B+, if not an A-. I don't know if it was, like, the best movie that I watched in 2024. We'll get to that one in a little bit, but it still was very, very good, better than I was expecting, and I was, like, entranced by this movie, but again, I'm not sure if I would watch it again, just because of how kind of heavy the subject matter is, and I don't mean that as a slight about Brendan Fraser's condition in the film, but the material itself is very heavy, it's very dense. Something interesting about this movie is Sophia Sink who is in this movie. She makes her film debut, but she was actually um, the girl who played young Taylor in the All Too Well short film. So that's kind of something interesting about this film. It's kind of a fun fact. But yeah, so this one, like I said, I don't know if I could watch it again, but it wasn't because it wasn't a very good and powerful film. If you have not seen it yet, I think this is a movie that everybody should watch once. And it really, the underlying message is like your words, um, like words do hurt, but they can also be something that saves someone. So something that you say can save someone or keep someone going. And I think that's a really powerful message to hear in today's society. Okay, next we're going to, oops, sorry about that. Next is The Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. This was the fourth installment in the new, like, revival series of the Planet of the Apes movies. We started with Rise and then Dawn and then War of the Planet of the Apes. And all of those revival movies are very well done. Like, James Franco is good, Andy Serkis is good. Like, the new versions of the Planet of the Apes movies are actually good movies, and I've seen the first one a couple of times, watched each of the other ones, I think once each. And I have reviews of all of those in my YouTube channel because I watched them all within starting this channel. So, but this one was the revival. This was another one where we went and saw this movie and another movie at the same time, and unfortunately the other movie just hit harder for us and it just performed better. We're going to talk about that other movie here in just a second, but this one overall, I was disappointed that Andy Serkis wasn't in it. However, I do really like the orangutan character in the film, and I think, you know, the CGI effects are amazing, and the leaps and bounds that we've come in CGI and graphic imaging throughout the years, really is a marvel. It truly is a marvel, and I think it's done very well in this film. But this is another movie that I just feel like I don't know if it was needed. Like, I don't know if this movie was even necessary. William H. Macy is in this movie, and the plot essentially is kind of the same as the second one, The Dawn, when a human teams up with two of the apes and tries to overtake another ape who is trying to mine this, like, I guess it's like gold or ore, some sort of ore that they're going to use to make weapons. And yeah, so essentially I felt like it was just a repeat of the second one with new characters and no Andy Serkis because yeah. So I would give it, I don't know if it's like D tier. Like, I don't know if it was that bad to get like a D, so maybe a C minus probably, just because it was okay. Did I enjoy watching it? Yes. Would I rush out and watch it again? I don't know. I don't really have any interest in owning it to watch it more than once, and especially compared to the first three, I don't know. I just don't know how it measures up against those. So yeah, I'd probably give it a C minus probably for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Moving on to Songbird. This film is very interesting. So a little bit of a backstory that I know about this film. This film stars KJ Apa and Sophia Carson of Descendants fame, but also this film, to my knowledge, never actually, it was supposed to go to the theaters, it never did because of COVID. And this movie is actually about the COVID pandemic, but they don't call it COVID, but everybody goes into quarantine, and then it's like if somebody in your quarantine gets sick, then you are contaminated and you have to be exiled, and it's kind of an extreme version of COVID, and they were selling like all of these immunity patches, and people were, you know, selling them on the black market. So it's kind of interesting. It is sort of like sci-fi. It's a very short film. It's very suspenseful, and it kind of moves very quickly. But it is just an interesting concept of a movie, and honestly, I'm surprised more people haven't done more movies like this. My rating for this one probably would be a B. I mean, we enjoyed it. It was okay. It was an interesting concept. Would I rush out and watch it again? I don't know, because it's kind of one of those ones, like, once you know what happens, it's not going to be as impactful the second time you watch it, but maybe. So maybe for that reason I would give it like a B minus, just because I don't know if I would watch it again, but I enjoyed it while watching it. Yeah, everything is kind of B tier, like we're seeing. We've had a lot of B tiers in these movies. Things that are, like, they're fine. Like, I enjoyed watching them, but I wouldn't rush out necessarily and watch them again, or I'm not gonna rush out to, like, own it on Blu-ray. But I did enjoy watching it. Okay, now we're getting into what I consider, like, the meat, right? The good movies that I watched in 2024. Starting off, or continuing on, I should say, Disney's Wish. And I'm gonna be honest, this was a movie that I had zero interest in seeing. When I first saw the trailer, I didn't like the animation style. I thought it was wonky looking, and I couldn't decide. It was like Disney couldn't decide whether they were doing a 2D or a 3D animated film, and I just wasn't not a fan of the animation style. It looked like a picture book had come to life, which in theory, that is what an animated movie is. However, the way that it was done, I just wasn't a fan. Flash forward, like, 6-7 months into the year, and actually, I think this movie technically released in, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I think it released in, like, November of 2023. I did not watch it until 2024. So, flash forward, it's been released, and the library has it on physical media. I check it out from the library, and I watch it, and I loved it. I loved the music, the animation style. While it takes a little bit of getting used to, once you're, like, halfway into the film, you don't really notice it anymore. The musical numbers are great. I think the villain is great, and the number of Easter eggs that are in this movie about other Disney movies is amazing. And the theories about this movie, like how Magnifico is the magic mirror from Snow White, and then you watch it and you're like, oh my gosh, it totally makes sense. And then there's another theory that Asha ends up being the fairy godmother from Cinderella. Watch till the end, you'll see what I'm talking about. So there are so many Easter eggs from other Disney movies in this film. I was like, I have to watch this again. So I have since watched Wish, I think 3 times, and I just over the weekend bought it on Blu-ray, and now I can own it and watch it whenever I want. And the end credit scene alone brought me to tears. The end credit scene. And for those of you who don't know, this was Disney's 100th animated film, and it was to celebrate the Disney 100. So that's why they have so many Easter eggs in there, is because it's literally supposed to be an homage to When You Wish Upon a Star, and that's where they got Star and all that. So this is like an homage to Disney over 100 years of animation, and it is just, there's so many good things about it. I really should probably do like a full review just on Wish and how much I love it, but for now, we're just going to keep going. This movie gets an A+ for me. Absolutely love it. It's up there for the top movies that I watched in 2024. Next, we have Sound of Freedom, starring Jim Caviezel. Now, something interesting, Jim Caviezel was actually the actor who played Jesus Christ in The Passion of the Christ. And so he is pretty much only known exclusively for The Passion of the Christ. And now he is in this Sound of Freedom movie, which he helped produce, and it is based on an incredible true story about children's sex trafficking in South America. So Honduras, Chile, Venezuela, Guatemala, all of those things, and how him and a group of other, you could say vigilantes, you could say, I don't know if crusaders is the right word, but they're infiltrating these rings of sex trafficking and bringing the kids, like, getting them reunited with their families, getting them set up for, like, getting them out of the sex trafficking. This is another movie similar to The Whale that is very, very hard to watch, but I think it's a very important film to watch because I feel like there's not enough, like, people are not talking about this topic, and this was a very powerful, very real portrayal of things that are actually happening. And they do have a segment at the end of the film showing the real kids that were focused on in this film and how you can help and things like that. So this is another one that I am looking to own because I would like to watch it again, and I think this is one that I think everybody should watch. And regardless of how you feel, like everybody thought that this was a super political movie, and so people didn't go see it. It is not. It is not that at all. So definitely, if you have not seen this yet, I highly recommend. Like I said, it's just a very like inside scoop into what's going on. And I think it brings a lot of awareness to the table. This one overall, I would probably give it an A minus. It's also an A tier movie for me. I think everybody should watch it at least once. And it's one that I would like to own. So yeah, this one gets an A from me. The next one is Fall Guy. Fall Guy was the movie that we saw with Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. So this one we saw first, and then Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes we saw second, and Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes just it didn't land, no pun intended, after Fall Guy. First of all, something to note is I absolutely love Ryan Gosling. Pretty much everything that he's done, I love and I own. So I think he is hilarious, but Emily Blunt is also really great in this film. They have really good chemistry, and the movie has a big twist. So there's like, it's an action movie that's also a comedy. So you have like these big budget like film sequences, and then you also, because that's the whole point of the movie, is Ryan Gosling plays a stuntman, and so they literally built up all of these stunts for the movie, and then Ryan and his stuntman did them for the movie. And so it's kind of this weird like retrospective, here's how we film a movie, while also being like a comedy and also being sort of like a crime movie. There's like a little bit of a crime scandal background too. So this is another one that's A tier for me. It gets a solid A. I thought it was funny. I thought it moved fast. The pacing was good. The plot was good. Taylor Swift, there's a really funny like Taylor Swift scene. I won't spoil it, but it's really funny. And she's not in the film, but it's just something they mention her and it's funny. So lots of pop culture references, but also great casting and great effects and literally everything. I really had no complaints about this movie. I thought it was really good. And it does explore the dangers of stuntmen, and it gives like, at the end of the film in the credits, they say like, thank you to all of our stuntmen and women. And I think that's really important because those are people that are behind the scenes doing the dirty work, literally, that nobody, like, they never get the recognition. So I think for that perspective as well, that's also what makes it a great movie, is they took it upon themselves to thank these people by giving them this film in their honor. So yeah, Fall Guy is an A tier movie for me, and I am currently on the hunt for it on Blu-ray. Okay, now we're gonna get into some that it's been a while since I've watched them, admittedly. And the first two are the first two X-Men movies. To sit here and tell you which one is which, I can't really. I do remember liking the second one a little bit better, I think. I felt like the pacing was better. I felt like the characters interacted better together. The first one, everybody was just kind of awkward and broody and moody, and but this is another film franchise where there are lots of characters and everybody kind of has their own power. I felt like I was watching Avengers Endgame, but I didn't know who anybody was or how they got their powers, because contrary to the Marvel franchise with the X-Men, they just kind of start their movie and everybody already has their powers. Like, I don't know. I think there is like the X-Men Origins, but if you watch them in chronological order, it tells you to watch X-Men and X2, and you don't get any of the origin. So it's just like all these people, all these gifted people with these special powers come together, and they end up, stopping a mad scientist. But it's like, how did you all get here? Like, I need more information. Overall, these two movies don't stand out to me. I'm gonna lump them both together and say that they're C-tier movies, because I haven't watched them again. I don't really remember specific details about them other than some, like Halle Berry's in it, James Marsden is in it, those types of things. So yeah, I'm just gonna lump them both together and say C tier. And some of you out there are probably like, oh my gosh, these are great movies, and that's very possible. And maybe I need to watch them again. Lightyear. Disney Pixar's Lightyear. This is another movie that I had zero interest in watching. Zero. I did not go see it in the movie theater. I did not watch it when it was on Disney Plus, for multiple reasons. Some of you are probably sitting there thinking that it was because you heard that there was a act of homosexual affection in the film, which some people that I know and that follow me probably did not watch it for that reason. For me, it had nothing to do with that. It was, but again, like we talked about in part one, Disney is really pushing that boundary lately, if we're being honest. They are really pushing that boundary of the traditional family values. And that is what Disney was founded on. And don't even get me started. Everybody says, oh, Walt Disney was a racist. He was a sexist, blah, 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 blah. Walt Disney was a family man. That's why he created everything that he created. And, on both sides of the coin, there are arguments on both sides. This video is not to talk about that, and we're not going to get into that. That is not why I did not want to watch this movie. I did not want to watch this movie because Chris Evans is playing Buzz Lightyear. Chris Evans. After we have just had 4 full-length Toy Story movies, several Toy Story short films, with Tim Allen being Buzz Lightyear. Now, Tim Allen refused to do Lightyear because of the homosexual affection scene, to my knowledge. He did not want to be associated with it because, again, it was on that borderline of not, and Tim Allen is a very outspoken conservative man. He did The Last Man Standing. Like, almost everything that he does is conservative leaning. But if Tim Allen did not want to do this movie, you should have just not done this movie. Because to have somebody else, not Buzz Lightyear, play Buzz Lightyear doesn't really make any sense. So that is why I did not want to see this movie. It also flopped terribly in the theaters, so I did not think that it was going to be any good. However, all of this to say, I hope you're okay. The movie was actually better than I expected. It was better than I expected. I would say I gave it like a 6 out of 10, which equates to a C. Okay, so we've got another C tier movie here, but it was better than I expected. So Lightyear is the origin story of how Buzz came to be Buzz Lightyear. The only real problem I have with this film is that you find out Zurg's origin as well, and it does not make any sense. Zurg's origin makes 0 sense to everything that we have grown up learning and knowing about Buzz and Zurg. And that was my biggest issue with the movie. I also didn't really understand the point of the cat, but I think they just did it to be like kind of like what they did in Soul. Like, Pixar just likes to throw cats in their films just to, like, be this distractor, because that was my biggest critique about Soul as well. I said I didn't understand why they put the cat in there, and that's kind of where I'm at with Lightyear. Like, I don't understand really the purpose of the cat, but overall, the movie was better than I expected, and my husband even agreed. He said that was honestly not that bad. It wasn't as bad as we thought, and Chris Evans, to his credit, we weren't totally disappointed. My biggest disappointment with the film was, like I said, Zurg's origin story, which leaves me at that C tier. Okay, next we have Shazam! Fury of the Gods. And this video really, some of you are probably like, well, she just watches crap movies with crap actors. I don't believe that. I do have a small list of movies that I would consider are crap movies. However, I really support the arts, and I support acting, and I support actors, actresses. So a movie could be total garbage, and I will still watch it, and I can find something to enjoy about it, because you know what? That person is putting themselves out there to make something for me to enjoy, and I couldn't do it, and you probably couldn't either. So all of this flack that all of these actresses and actors are getting, like, at the end of the day, they are just humans. So we just need to maybe keep some of our opinions to ourselves. Anyway, moving on. Shazam! Fear of the Gods is the sequel to Shazam, starring Zachary Levi. And regardless of what you want to say about Zachary Levi, I actually don't know what people are saying. I've just heard like, oh, grumblings. But he's been in a lot of films lately, so he's obviously doing something right. So, what does that say? I don't know. But again, I genuinely have no idea. This one was not nearly as good as the first one. That's all I'm gonna really say about this one. If I say too much, it's gonna spoil it. But this one is probably a C minus, maybe even a D. I liked the first Shazam a lot, like a lot more than I thought I would, and this one just it's almost like I didn't get it. I thought it was boring, it was slow in some parts. So yeah, I think this one might be D tier. I don't know if I'll watch this one again. Magic Mike's Last Dance. Y'all, I watched this movie on a Friday night with a glass of wine all by myself because my husband was out of town. This was the best thing I could have done with my time. I have watched this movie twice since I watched it for the first time. First of all, I am a fan of Magic Mike. A lot of people, this is another one that a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, that movie's trash. I like it. I love the dancing. I love the actors. You can't not love it. I mean, Channing Tatum is stripping down to nothing in this film. There are no complaints, okay? Now, my one complaint about this film is Selma Hayek is also in it, and she and Channing Tatum do some things together frequently, but her language is off the charts, and it really takes away from the movie for me. And I get it. This is a rated R film. The men are taking off their clothes and dancing around erotically. I get it. It's definitely not a movie for kids. However, I don't really think there needs to be that much language. Like, when you're just having a casual conversation, we don't need to be, like, throwing out the F word all the time. And she is really bad about that. I felt that way in Hitman's Bodyguard as well. But overall, this movie is an A. An A tier. This is the last one of this series, which for good reason, it makes sense. But also, like, if you have seen this film, the water scene with the ballerina, that's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. Moving on. But Magic Mike's Last Dance, A tier. Everybody should watch it. Especially all my female friends out there. Watch Magic Mike's Last Dance. You won't regret it. 7. Psychological thriller. Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt. Based on the 7 Deadly Sins, which my husband was super impressed that I was able to figure that out. And I also predicted the twist ending, like, probably 10 minutes before it was revealed, so I was feeling pretty proud of myself. This was a good movie. I would definitely watch this one. Well, this is one that I don't know if you can. I would watch it again, but it would definitely, like, now that you know what happens, you really can't watch it again because it takes away the whole suspense thriller part of it. But it was very good. I really, really enjoyed it. I really regret waiting this long to watch it. It's been on our shelf forever, and I just never watched it. And yeah. I don't really have any complaints. This one probably also is A tier for me. I think it's just really good. The actors are good. The cast is good. The concept of it with a killer killing based on the 7 Deadly Sins, also good. Like, yeah. If you like true crime, Criminal Minds, stuff like that, you would like this one. So that's my review for that one. A tier. Moving on up. Next, we have another psychological thriller, The Zodiac. I believe this one is also a Christopher Nolan, but don't quote me. It might be David Fincher. I'm not 100. My husband is a big fan of both of them, so we have several of their movies, and I get them confused. But this is another serial killer movie. But this cast, we have Robert Downey Jr., Jake Gyllenhaal, Mark Ruffalo, and others in this film. And this one took me 3 times to watch it all the way through. This movie is long. It is over 2 hours long. And if you are not super invested into the content, you will fall asleep. Like I said, it took me 3 times of trying to watch this film to actually get through it. And I would say the only part of it's called, like, I think it's called a psychological thriller, The only part that's actually thrilling is within the last 30 minutes of the film. And it's the scene that I'm referring to is when Jake Gyllenhaal goes into that basement, and that has been rated as one of the scariest like scenes in a psychological thriller because you just don't like that was the only thrilling part, and that was like 30 minutes left into the film. So you have to get through like an hour and a half of all of the, and the Zodiac is the most elusive serial killer that's ever lived. He never was caught, he never was apprehended. So it's a good like it is a good movie, but it is long, and you really need to like watch it when you're not tired and really be invested in the content. Overall, I would probably give it a B minus. Like it's a little bit better than C tier, but it really really took me a long time to get through it. I mean, really for no reason, because the content should have been really engaging, and it for whatever reason. I think the movie is very dark. Like it rains a lot. They do a lot of their stuff at night, and it just yeah, I ended up having to finish watching it during the day because I kept falling asleep. We have another Jake Gyllenhaal one next. It is Source Code. I fell asleep during this movie. I missed easily 1 hour of this film. It's definitely not my thing. My husband said it was just okay. He kind of didn't really. He thought the ending was kind of dumb. And like I said, it just was not my thing at all. It's very sci-fi, very like AI sort of thing, virtual reality. They like have this guy who is essentially like a paraplegic. He has no, like, he's alive only in his brain, but he has no function of his limbs or any other. And they have like kept him in this incubator and are sent like they're using him to try and go back. And it's almost too complex for me to even like comprehend, because things that are like, if the technology is too advanced for me to like comprehend, then I kind of like I just don't understand how it's possible, and I have a hard time suspending my disbelief. So for me, I would probably give this movie like a D minus. I don't know if I even have any interest to finish it, but for my husband it got like probably like a 4 out of 10. So like a D. This movie is very cheap everywhere. You can find this movie for like $2 or $3 no matter where you go, because we picked it up cheap, and then we found like 7 or 8 copies also cheap. Next we have A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood starring Tom Hanks as Mr. Rogers. This movie is so sentimental to me. It is so nostalgic. It took me forever to get a copy of this where I could watch it like at the library or whatever. But I felt like this movie was very well done. It's very touching, very heartwarming. Does go into the behind the scenes of the Mr. Rogers Neighborhood show and who Mr. Rogers was as a person. And everybody's like, oh, he really wasn't that nice. And it genuinely shows that he was like the nicest person to everybody. He cared for everyone like they were his friend. And that did have effects on his own relationships with his children and his wife, and that is explored in the film as well. But the overwhelming message in the film is just to be kind to your neighbors and treat everybody like a neighbor and treat everybody how you want to be treated. This film gets an A for me. I would definitely watch this movie again. Okay, we're almost to the end. That gives you a little spoiler of where we're going for the last one, so I'm going to scroll down just a little bit more, but we're almost to the end. We only have a few left. Kung Fu Panda 1 and 2. Kung Fu Panda 1 I've now seen twice. I actually cried the first time I watched Kung Fu Panda, and I, believe it or not, had never watched the Kung Fu Panda movies. Finally watched them. And the first one is very, very cute. Would I watch it again? Absolutely. The first one gets an A for me. I don't think I had any complaints. I think I gave it like a 9 or a 10 out of 10 when I first watched it. Now, the second one, I just watched the second one not too long ago too, and I'm having a little bit of a hard time remembering it. Like, I like remember it. He's the dragon warrior, and but like, they go to Poe's, like, Poe finds out who his real parents are in this one, which is really the underlining storyline. And then they fight a villain, as they do, because they're the Furious Five. So that's kind of, but this one was not nearly as good as the first one, in my opinion. It still had some like really touching, heartwarming parts, but nothing compared to the first one. I would say this one probably gets a B minus, maybe a C plus. It's like hovering between that like okay and good movie. I think my exact words were, it was all right. Like, Would I watch it again? Maybe, but not as often as I'm going to rewatch the first one. All right. Then we have Sing 2. This is a very cute movie, and the first Sing movie is also really cute, but in this one, essentially, Matthew McConaughey and his crew they move to a different city. They're taking the show on the road, and they get this gig in a hotel, and Matthew McConaughey is trying to work with the hotel manager to like put the show on. He wants his daughter to be the star. She's terrible, like that sort of a situation. But also we have Scarlett Johansson's character kind of questioning if she even wants to be a part of the show. And so she goes off on her own to try and recruit this retired musician to come and join their show, and they actually got Bono to play the retired musician. And the singing in this film is really, really good, and it's cute. The animation is well done. These movies are both really cute. I do think I still like the first one better, but this one it's almost comparable, so I'm gonna give this one a C+ as well. Like, would I watch this again? Yes, especially with kids, it would be great. But compared to the first one, I think it's a little bit more lackluster than the first one, but still cute and still fun for the family. Last but not freaking least, the last movie that I watched of 2024 was Wicked, and I saw it in the theaters on Black Friday, and I have zero regrets. This movie was a 12 out of 10. A++. I have only 2 minor complaints about this film. The first one was that I felt that Dancing Through Life was, one, a little bit too long, and they jazzed it up a little bit too much. It was a little bit too poppy for me. That's one of my favorite numbers in the show. And then the last thing in my, like, what they did with Defying Gravity, while it is good, the ending could have been so much more climactic and so much more dramatic, and they decided to drag out this like ending scene for way too long. It should have done exactly what they did in the stage show with her battle cry and black screen done, film end. Instead, they drag it on for like a whole nother 3 minutes, and then they also add like a little riff in the song towards the very end that really kills the dynamic of the song. All that to be said, I thought Cynthia Erivo was magnificent. Her makeup, stunning. Costumes, stunning. Set design, stunning. Vocals, stunning. Out of the water. Ariana Grande, same freaking thing. Stunning. Costumes, stunning. Her look, stunning. Her voice, stunning. She did a phenomenal job bringing this character to life, and I was more nervous about her than I was about Cynthia Erivo, and she delivered. Knowing that the second one is now called Wicked for Good, I'm already deceased by that, because For Good is my favorite number in the entire show, but Act 2 is filled with spectacular numbers, and I am so excited to see what they do with this part 2 of this film. It was absolutely stunning. I cried. I was gasping. My jaw dropped. Like, I have zero complaints about this film. This film takes the cake for the best film I watched in 2024. Far and above. Bar none. And I watched a lot of movies this year, and there were several A-tier movies. This one, not even close. Now, could that possibly be due to recency bias and the fact that I just saw this movie a few weeks ago? Possibly. And that everything on my social media and my YouTube is Wicked stuff? Possibly. However, I think it deserves all of the hype that it is getting. My mom gave it a 9 out of 10. My sister gave it a 15 out of 10. My friend who knew nothing about Wicked gave it a 9 out of 10. And I gave it a 12 out of 10. I had zero complaints, and I will be going to see this movie again. I will. That is it for this video. We did get through all of them. Thank you all so much for being here and so much for watching. And like I said, make sure you go check out part 1 to get the rest of the movies that I watched in 2024, and let me know in the comments your thoughts about some of the movies that I dropped here. Hit that red button to subscribe, and you can turn on the bell and get notified when I drop new content, because right now I'm uploading and dropping new videos about once or twice a week, so I'm really getting into the hang of uploading them and having new content drop more regularly. So thank you all so much for being here, and stay tuned all throughout the year for more movie reviews, book reviews, and all things media right here on the channel. I'll see you guys next time.